real artistry. And what I loved was that you, the trio, when you're officially down on my shoes as the Year 9 trio, have I got that right? I don't know if you have a name beyond that. But you've really developed a collective personality beyond the trio. In other words, you've become, I can't remember if it's your group, I was talking about this to you before, but where a trio becomes four, because the fourth person, if you like, is you, the trio, yeah, the fourth personality. And that's especially important in anything by Schubert, because Schubert, there's so much, isn't it? I mean, it's why I would say pretty much my favourite composer. You know, it's just the way in which the harmony works, the way in which the melodic lines kind of emerge from nowhere, can completely change character by one little tiny shift of the kaleidoscope of a bit of harmony here, a bit of texture there. You know, he's the absolute genius of doing these things. So there's all this kind of intricacy, but also his chamber music and his trios. And this kind of writing, it's so joined up, you know, there's no way that you could successfully pull off this piece as a performance were it not for you, the trio, to be joined up. That's why often this wouldn't be approached until far more kind of older, you know, sort of like music college age students. Now you are playing at Year 9, you're doing absolutely wonderfully, and as I say, you've got that lovely collective personality as a trio as well, which is great. Now, at the very opening, for obvious reasons, because the piano starts, you're very much in Aaron's hands, aren't you, to set up this very persistent kind of rhythmic quality, which is all about the dotted rhythm, isn't it? The persistence of the quavers, dum, dum, dee, da, da. And Aaron, you did that masterfully. It was just brilliant. And I love the way you kind of kept it really still as well, because there's a bit of an accent, but you didn't do too much of the accent, and that's great. Lovely cello entry. Loved the violin entry likewise. What I want you both to think about, Jason and Kimwe, is when you take on the mantle of the bop, 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 can you, because it has got to have this real kind of persistent quality to it. You know, it's like it never really goes, and then of course it comes back at the end, but when it goes into the major, it's still there, isn't it? And it's all about the da, yeah, da. It's a really simple device, but it's so central to the movement. Can you make sure that you're absolutely matching? This is a fine detail, but I'd say you've got such a lovely kind of trio in terms of your personality of the trio. We can focus those fine details. The dotted rhythm especially wasn't quite matched. Aaron, can you just play literally just your first two bars? Don't worry about the cello entry, but just the first two bars. Yeah, and I think what it is that you're holding the, in fact, by the way, I think you could hold it a tiny bit more, but you're gripping the dotted semi-quaver a bit more. I think first time you did do it a bit more, but it's that business of, I can't demonstrate unfortunately for reasons we know, but dum, bum, bum, ya, dum. It's like a downbeat in the middle of the bar, isn't it? And when you come in with your entries, I thought the thing is about dotted rhythm is there's a danger that we can kind of, it can become a bit skittish, and we could skip over it, and we could make yum, ba-dum, ba-dum, you know, like the Archers theme music, da-da-da, ba-dum, ba-dum, you know, that kind of dotted rhythm. And this is the kind of opposite dotted rhythm. This is the kind of grit, dum, boom, boom, boom. It's very kind of ponderous almost. It's like a march. Yeah. Can I just hear the string entries by yourself, violin and cello, which sets up the piano theme. But just see if you can grit that a little bit more. Where you come with that. Yeah, starting over here, I reckon we need a little bit more of your good self. Okay, you're sitting in exactly the right place, meaning the cello can come out nicely, but say to a cellist earlier in the trio, don't forget that just because you're the bottom line, you might think you're playing the harmonic accompaniment. That's actually the most important thing, because it kind of colours it, yeah? One more time, just for two of you there. Yes, and then that's lovely, and that sets up obviously then the piano entry. But I mean, not least because it's marked with the accent, but it is this business of having a kind of downbeat stuck in the middle of the bar, and it gives this slight kind of unsettling quality to it. Do you see what I mean? And it's got this, hasn't it? It's got it's and then the sublime melody comes in, but it's still got this little ripple of unsettling. Have you got the same letter as me? Letter Q. Yes. There's something about, I mean, as a kid, I was saying just now about Schubert's complete mastery of modulation. Arguably, it's nothing that unusual about the fact that he's gone into E flat major here at this point, because it's a very kind of related key, obviously, to the opening key of the movement. But I think, and I was talking before lunch to a group about harmonic colour. Remember, any key change isn't, the key change itself means absolutely nothing. But the harmonic, any kind of harmonic change, it's about colour. And I think here, for me personally, I want something a little bit warmer, and I think it ties up with Jason's, your melody here. He's still using the dotted rhythm, but it's now in a different way. And because of that tied note from the bar of Q into the bar after it, it's got this kind of nice, I just feel it's sort of, it's lifting a bit now, whereas the beginning was very gripped, not least by this dotted rhythm down, the march like policy we were just talking about. Here, obviously I'm not meaning for a moment that you should rush on and do some kind of superimposed rubato to it, but I think it's just, you've got to have a feeling of freedom, that it's just a bit warmer and a bit sort of, it's now the melody's really going somewhere. So can you just try and get that sort of contrast into Q? Can we maybe play from, I love what you did immediately before Q, by the way. Can we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars before Q? Oh no, but actually why don't we go 6 with the upbeat? So when these dum bam starts, so the piano has it first, then you have your dum dum. You know what I mean? I think it's 6 bars before. So yeah, the piano, do you want to do your one first? Boom, then into the strings. Dum dum. Feel a lot brighter. Now there's all kinds of things we can do to sort of affect that colour. So I do think you could play through your tight note even more there. I think that will give it a lovely sense of warmth. Tight notes really have that ability to do that. When you have your entry, play it as if it's a cello sonata or cello concerto. I was saying to group earlier, we can be absolutely, especially in the piano trio. Piano trios are really, and I don't know how many of our friends who are watching know about the exact format of this, but we're always, and what I love about today's Chamber Music Day, by the way, at Queen Elizabeth, is that you've got so many different, you've got wind groups and you've got piano groups, and I'm a pianist, so obviously I appreciate that, but I would anyway, because, everyone always thinks the string quartet is, some of the greatest chamber music repertoire has risen for the string quartet, and it kind of, many people would say it all started with the string quartet, the Haydn quartet, and of course what the string quartet has is this wonderful symmetry of the instruments and the way in which it works. Piano trio comes a close number 2. It's why I'm thrilled to see piano groups today, because the great composers like Schubert and Beethoven were writing equally amazing repertoire for the piano trio. So it's a very close number 2 in terms of being the kind of famous chamber music ensemble. But actually, unlike the string quartet, it's totally weird in terms of the way in which we have to balance these instruments. And I say that as a pianist, but it is weird. We've got this whopping great piano, we've got the cello. That's why it's so important that you sit out, because you've got to balance against that. You're often doubling up with his left hand in terms of your tonal register. Violinist can stand or sit, totally up to you, and you're in just the right place, by the way, there, Jason. But it's quite sort of ill-matched in terms of the way the instruments work. So we've always got this challenge of how we do that. So that's why I'm saying cello lines, and especially your entry, really, really play out. And then the final thing I would say, which I think will help colour this at Q, letter Q, is Aaron, and this is a kind of general point actually through the whole movement, okay? You play wonderfully, you're a brilliant pianist, you're all brilliant. But I don't fall into the trap of when you see an arpeggio figure, especially Schubert of all people. Schubert is, all of Schubert is his voice, okay? It's all sung. He wrote amazing Lieder, all his songs and everything else. Everything comes from here, yeah? There isn't a single thing that he writes which is just a kind of da-ka-da-ka-da, da-ka-da-ka-da. So don't play these arpeggios as arpeggios.
play them as beautifully crafted. They have shape within themselves. They're little ripples. Okay, I'm not saying it's an actual singing line, but it's got a real kind of quality to it. So I think you can help with the shape of your arpeggios there. So just something for you to think about, and I think all of that put together will give some really quite nice different contrasts in that section of Q. Now, just after that, where you've got, it's about 8 or 9 bars after you've got the decrescendo to the pianissimo. It's in the same passage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 12 bars after. We won't do it now, but just so you need to think about is when you do play as well as you three do, and what I started by saying to you, that you've got this lovely collective personality as a trio, and you've got this lovely acoustic that you're playing in here. Remember that in the middle of a movement, you can do something really quite special that makes your audience work a bit harder, makes us come to you a little bit in terms of how we listen. Don't think that everything always has to be ultra projected. If you've got your audience on side from the start, and you've got this lovely, as you had, then you can do things that are really kind of delicate, that really make us sort of think, oh gosh, what's going on now? And I think that's one of those moments. I think it could be a really magical decrescendo into that pianissimo there. Sometimes the most magical dynamics of all are when we suddenly have this hush moment to almost nothing. So we won't try now, more for you to think about next time you have a rehearsal, but dare to do almost nothing there, okay? Put it right back. On the complete reverse of that, then when we get to letter S, so it's also letters, but it helps them find what I'm talking about in the music, is obviously this big, just before letter S, is this big climax, okay? So about 10 or so bars later. And you've got these FZs and the crescendos and the triplet passages and everything else. Now, you kind of burst into that climax at letter R brilliantly, but you've got, there's then no let up, okay? It's big right through to that bar's rest before S. And then if you do carry it right through, then S itself will feel all the more magical with its pianissimo and the cello entry there, which is, I know you're not piano, but it's something very small compared with the big explosion of sound that's happened before. Can we go from literally letter R itself, and you've got about 10 or so bars there before your general pause bar, and just, it keeps, it's relentless, isn't it? It's crescendo to another FZ, and crescendo to another one, and crescendo, just really go with that energy, yeah, give it everything. Don't worry if the ensemble rocks even, we will just push the boundaries. From letter R. These triplets I was saying to the group earlier actually, triplets are often one of two things. They're kind of expansive, it's like lazy sounding, or they're kind of agitated. And this is very much in the agitated triplet box. Yeah, yeah, really make those quite forceful when you come in there. One more time, letter R. There's the odd moment where it's not quite together. When you're playing at your level, I'd far prefer that you went for these things and maybe something that's a tiny bit out. You need to have your audience quite literally on the edges of their chairs there. So just watch out for that one. And then we kind of, as ever, sort of swinging backwards and forwards to sort of extremes of emotions here. Then at letter T for T, wherever that is. I've lost it now. But if you could find letter T on your scores. Yeah, letter T was just a place where I just thought it needed to be. Oh yeah, here it is. Yeah, really go for this as one of those kind of very special moments. It's the tremolo bit, you know what I mean. But what I'm far more than tremolando. I think what makes it so special is the kind of the fact that it's pianissimo for a good 5 or so bars, and even then he does his little hairpins. For me, it's just a tiny hairpin, and the crescendo just not too much. I think we did a little bit too much too soon at letter T. All right, hold it back. And that's what I was saying just now about bringing the audience to you. Keep that stillness. Keep us in the moment, because this is what Schubert's all about. You know, he quite literally take us to another world in terms of colours and in terms of atmosphere. And your job as performers of Schubert is to sustain that, to keep your audience in that world. Yeah, does that make sense? So it's just something for you to think about. But seriously, well done. I mean, this is very, very advanced playing of an incredibly challenging movement. Any Schubert is challenging. And because you do have this lovely collective personality as a trio, now I think is the time for you to take risks, like you did just now with that big climax moment, and take risks the other way as well, in terms of what you do that's small and that's kind of very intricate and inward, and as I say, bringing the audience to you in that respect as well. Great.